Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to this episode of Bible News Radio. And right off, I got to tell you something. This is not my original opening. I had actually recorded a 15-minute opening prior to this, and somehow it got deleted. Don't know how it happened. So you're not going to have a background kind of to what I initially led up to with this show, but that's okay because the main meat of our show is about an hour long. So I'm going to try not to go over that too much, too far. But I want to let you know that if you're new to the show, thank you for tuning in. I am Stacy Lynn Harp. I'm the host of Bible News Radio. I'm the founder and managing director of Heart Tug International. You can go over to my website, hearttug.org or BibleNewsRadio.com. Both places, it's the same place. And you can learn more about our show there. My background, just so y'all know, is as a marriage and family therapist. I hold a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I have a real passion to share truth with people, kind of in a way that's unconventional sometimes. And so today's show, normally what we do is we look at the news of the day from a biblical perspective. But this week, it was really on my heart to talk about something really that's going on that very few Christians, I actually don't hear any Christians, to be honest with you, talking about this topic. And that is the topic of multi-level marketing, abuse, narcissistic abuse in particular, and cults. So many years ago, I studied cults pretty extensively, and primarily because I was accused by my brother, my older brother, when I became a Christian, that I had gone into a cult. And so he wanted me to prove that I wasn't in a cult, and you know how people can be. They can be antagonistic, but anyway, what he meant for evil, God obviously meant for good. And to make a long story short, I've learned what I believe as the Christian. I've learned why I believe it, and that's part of why we do this show. And I've been doing this show almost 18 years. So it's a long time. I've been talking about issues from a Christian and a biblical worldview. When I say biblical, I mean, I actually look at the Bible, what it says, and then we talk about how the Bible says this, and this is what this situation over here is saying doesn't line up, right? So multi-level marketing, there are a lot of Christians who are involved in multi-level marketing. And I have to tell you that wanting to own your own home business is not a bad thing, but there are a lot of problems within the multi-level marketing industry. And when people claim things are Christian, but then they don't treat people like Jesus would, and they begin to see them as a prospect instead of a person, then there can be a lot of problems. What I've noticed in my own situation with multi-level marketing and my own experience being abused by my upline is that I actually thought I was alone. And I stumbled across these anti-MLM people. And at first I dismissed them because I was like, oh, these people are just disgruntled. But I'm very open-minded to other points of view. And so I started watching these people, and I started listening to their stories, and things shocked me. Not completely, though, to be honest. And then I started studying cults and cults again. And Dr. Stephen Hassan, who is the number one cult expert in the world, he has a whole thing that you can do, and he has a lot of books you can look at. But one of the things that he talked about in one of the podcasts that he did was that if somebody can get you to imagine something, then they can own you. I thought, well, that's interesting, because dream it, believe it, achieve it is a mantra, a cultic type mantra, actually, that I was sold a number of years ago. And what I can tell you is that when you get into situations where people are pushing self-development, but they're claiming they're a Christian and they're not. There's no evidence of Jesus in their life at all. Then there's a problem. And I know some of you are in multi-level marketing, direct sales companies, and all that. And here's one thing I want to say right up front, and that is that I do not have any problem whatsoever with people wanting to work and have their own business. What I have a problem with is the model that these companies offer people, because they're very misleading, and the systems that they start with and how they're created, that is the problem. And I actually talked a little bit in my deleted piece, and I'll just say this really fast, about family systems. One of the things about a system, and a family system in particular, is that we're all raised in a family system. We all have roles that we were put in or that we took on in our family of origin, right? For me, I was the one that made everybody feel better. I was funny. I still am funny, and there's people who are the rescuer. There's the black sheep of the family. There's the baby of the family. I mean, there's different roles that we all have, and these systems work together. And often, when one person in a system, if this was a mobile that you would put above a baby crib, right? And you hit one part of that mobile, what happens? Well, all the other stuff starts to move, right? Because you upset the system. Boom. Oh my gosh, all this stuff happens. So that's why a lot of people don't like to upset systems, because then people are forced to change. Well, there's systems in churches. You're only as healthy as the leadership of a church. I went to a church once where it was born out of a divorcee singles group. And it turned out that the pastor of that church ended up being a divorcee himself. He was a divorced man, got married. The singles group turned into a church. All the elders on the elder board of this church were divorced, with the exception of my husband, who didn't fit in because he wasn't divorced. And let's just say we didn't fit in well because we weren't part of that dysfunctional environment. And you can carry that over to corporate level stuff. And then when you look at multi-level marketing companies, there's a whole culture that if you begin to question it, or you look at things, you can be disowned, you can be maligned. I actually had one of the top sellers in the company I've been in. When I asked him personally how much he reads the Bible, he actually got so offended he blocked me on Facebook. And this guy says he's a Christian, but he got all offended because when he was trying to promote his coaching program and tell the whole world to do a 90-day run, and I made a point to say, have you done that with the Bible? He got pissed off and he blocked me. That's nice. But see, that's what narcissists do, right? And so there's a lot of leaders in these companies who are malignant narcissists. They are insecure narcissists, and this is what they do. And so the rest of my show, I talk a little bit about that. I talk about the cultic system of multi-level marketing. I talk about the abuse that goes on that really no one likes to talk about. I talk about how people are drawn into these things, and I talk about why it's wrong, and Christians really, frankly, shouldn't be involved in them. So without further ado, enjoy the rest of the show. Okay, let's talk a little bit about multi-level marketing. And let's talk a little bit about some of the things that I have seen in multi-level marketing. So just simply defined, multi-level marketing company is something that is kind of pyramid shaped. At the top, you have people who build a downline, who each person gets a little cut of money, and most of the money goes to the person at the top. And these businesses are presented as home business opportunities, direct sales companies, an opportunity to have your own business, to work at home, and they often target young women. right? Women who work, sometimes retired people, sometimes middle-aged people, anybody who might have an entrepreneurial spirit, who may find a product that they like, and they say, hey, if you begin to sell this product, then you can make more money, and then you can build a team, and then you become rich and all this other stuff, right? So multi-level marketing. I think a lot of people have love-hate relationships with it. True story. And there are plenty in the Christian world that have been out. They have so-called Christian roots. And many Christians get involved in them, believing that when they are part of these companies, that they are going to be help building the kingdom of God, and they are going to make money, and they're going to pour back into people and all this other stuff. I grew up with a mom who was a malignant narcissist. She was extremely abusive, but my mom was very charismatic. She could con anybody. I mean, she wasn't godly at all. She had a personality where she could get a man pretty much to do anything that she wanted. And for a while, she was an Avon lady. And Avon is part of the multi-level marketing, right? My mom was able to pinch a penny till it bled, literally. I mean, she could squeeze a penny out of somebody. She would go to garage sales. She would put a $20 bill in her shoe, and she put $2 or $3 in her wallet with some coins, and she'd find something at a garage sale, and she would say, I want it. And they would say, it's $5. And my mom would open her wallet and she'd go, I only have $3. And she would swindle and bargain back and forth with whoever that poor person was having a garage sale. And she would get them to practically give her the thing. That was my mother, right? My mom would have done super awesome in multi-level marketing, but she became an Avon lady back in the day, and she did pretty good. She bought her products, pretty much sold enough to get what she wanted. And if she had applied herself, she could have probably been at the very, very top of the pyramid. Right? That wasn't, my thing. But, over the years, these multi-level marketing companies have, they have exploded, and there's so many of them. There's Isogenics, there's Plexus, there's Beachbody, there's doTERRA, there's Young Living, there is Legal Shield, there is I don't know, so many. There's just so many, right? There's just so many multi-level marketing companies, and most of them, pretty much all of them actually, run with the model that you have to buy a product and then you sell it. But the ultimate thing is that you have, in order to really make money, you have to recruit. And when you recruit, your goal is to get the people that you recruit to sell stuff so that you make money off their sales. Now, in theory, is this possible? Yeah, it's possible. And this is the lure of these organizations, is that they tell you, if you buy this product and then you can sell it higher, you buy it at cost, you sell it to somebody, you make money, and then you get them to sell it to somebody, and then you get a cut of what they sell, and so on and so on and so on. Well, a lot of the people who are taken advantage of in multi-level marketing are young people, a lot of young women in particular. And primarily I'm going to talk about women, because usually it's a woman who's involved in multi-level marketing. Now, I do happen to know a lot of men who have been involved in Legal Shield. But when it comes to the cosmetic ones or the health ones, the diet and nutrition ones, it's usually always women. And I will tell you that I have met some of the most kindest, sweetest, gentlest, lovely people in multi-level marketing. People who generally want to help other people. They have a desire to make some money, to be able to live, and all that. But what nobody talks about is the cultic tactics. And I'm going to use that word because they are. And the design of these companies where you are literally indoctrinated into a system. So, like I just talked about family systems and how you're trained within a family system, and then the systems in the church, how the top of the church, you know, how healthy the top of the church is compared to the rest of the body. It's the same way in multi-level marketing. You have people maybe who were very well intentioned, like Mary Kay, who developed a company, and maybe they were on the up and up in the beginning. Maybe they they went ahead, they started a company, they wanted to empower women, like Mary Kay, just as an example. And in fact, actually, it's my understanding that Mary Kay at one point actually had sold her company, and it was available as stock on the stock market. And then she bought it back, and somehow the MLM model was set up. In fact, just so you know, I use Mary Kay. I have Mary Kay lipstick on right now. It's the only lipstick I use because I love it. I think Mary Kay lipstick is great, but I would never sell Mary Kay, right? But here's the thing. Here's what people don't understand. And that is that when you get inside a multi-level marketing company, you are really entering into, and I hate to say this because it sounds so bad, but I'm just trying to be honest and offer you a different perspective. You're actually getting into a cultic system. You're getting into an authoritarian type control system. And I've seen this within the one I'm in. And I've seen the abuse that takes place in these companies. And that's part of the reason I'm bringing this out on my show. Because when I was initially involved and brought into the company that I was brought into, I was sold. I was actually sold into the idea of a business coach. I saw somebody who presented themselves as an expert in direct sales. That was their motto on Periscope. And I got hooked by the dream it, believe it, achieve it message, which is a classic mantra within direct sales. And I hired a business coach who, frankly, targeted me and my faith to further their wallet. I watched this person groom me, and this is why I'm bringing this up. There are tactics these people use. They groom you, they love bomb you, then they get you into their system and they begin to bully you, and they begin to make you feel like crap, and like if you can't do what you're supposed to do, then it's all your fault. You're the one with the problem and all that. Well, I have to tell you that unfortunately, just like in narcissistic abuse, there is a huge parallel between being narcissistically abused and being in a multi-level marketing company. And it's interesting because in the research that I've done lately, one of the things that I discovered, and I'm sharing this with you because I want you to think, if you're in one of these multi-level marketing companies, I want you to ask yourself, how did they get you hooked in, first of all? Did they love bomb you? I think they probably did, right? Everybody gets all excited in the beginning. Oh, we're so glad that you're here. We're going to give you a sign-on bonus, and you're here, and you're so great. You're a rock star, and you are going to be the next $5 million ring earner, and you're going to become the gold queen of whatever it is they call. They try to hype you up into wanting and believing and all this other stuff. So they love bomb you. Classic cult tactic. By the way, it's also a classic tactic of the narcissist. The person who is a narcissist who love bombs you in the beginning of your relationship, that's exactly what they do. Oh, I love you. You're part of my family. I've never known anybody like you before in my entire life. Oh, we're besties. We're soul spirits. We are one. I cannot believe that God finally brought somebody into my life who's just like you, who loves me, and all this other stuff. So they love bomb you. Okay. So if you've ever been in a multi-level marketing company where that's the initial thing, the whole team gets around you. They praise you. They tell you that you're a part of the team. You're so great. You're one of us now. And we're going to award you with this little piddly pin because you did a sale. And you're so great. And rah, rah, rah. And all the while, and this is so sad, but all the while, the people who are at the top of these things are they're looking at you with this big fat dollar sign, because that's really how they see you, most of them, right? The people who are at the top, they'll look at you, you're a dollar sign, you start making these sales, and so of course they're going to love bomb you. They're going to tell you how great and awesome you are because you just sold $100 worth of stuff and they're getting 75 of it and you're getting $2 or whatever it is that you happen to get. And I know I'm being a little exaggerant here, but my point is that's basically what's going on. Okay. So you get in this system, and then what happens with the multi-level marketing is that you are excited about whatever the product is. And I remember when I was introduced to doTERRA. I actually had a young guy who ended up being a pervert, actually, it turned out, but whatever. This guy came to my house. He was a massage therapist. This is before I knew he was a pervert. But he came to my house. He gave me a nice massage. My husband was in the same room when he was giving me a massage, just so you know, I was safe. But this guy was using doTERRA essential oil. And they have a some type blue, whatever it is. But anyway, it worked really great. And he said, you might want to check these products out. They could really help you with your muscle problems and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So he's like, here's my thing. Go ahead and sign up and become a representative. Well, I didn't know any better. I thought, okay, I did not know it was a multi-level marketing company at the time, but I went ahead, I signed up, I paid something like $80. I got their quote starter kit. And then of course they say you have to buy a certain amount in order to stay active and all this other stuff. And I remember being so ticked off. I was really mad, actually. I was so ticked off because I got the starter kit. They sent me like a lemon essential oil or a peppermint one. It was like probably their cheapest oil. And I remember thinking, there's no way I'm not going to make any money doing this. And I never pursued that one. I never went after that one because I could just see it was just a load of it was not good, right? I mean, I knew I wasn't going to make any money, but I know people and I see people who sell doTERRA, and doTERRA's got great oils. Okay, that's true. Their oils are good, but they're way, 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 way super expensive. And you can go to some other place like sparknaturals.com, and you can use my coupon code John316, and you can buy your oils and save 10% using my coupon code. And I don't have to do anything except give you a coupon code. And if you want to use Spark Naturals essential oil, then you can. Right? So that's not multi-level marketing. That's the way it should be, right? Just go to sparknaturals.com. Anyway, but I remember going, okay, I'm going to look at these different oils because they're cheaper. But when people get into something like with doTERRA, what I've seen happen is I've seen chiropractors, they become distributors. So then they go ahead and they sell them to their their clients or massage therapists. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But what happens is when you come across somebody who's very zealous and they become very pushy and they're like, do a party with me and buy this much. In the back of their mind, the reason they're doing it isn't really, I don't think most of the time, because they really care about you using the oil. They're trying to reach a certain point amount so that they get their cut and they can reach a certain goal. Well, I can tell you in the MLM that I've been a part of, I hit Performance Club for over 2 years. I never won a trip, though. But, they will tell you, hey, if you're, quote, Performance Club qualified, then you'll be able to have all these benefits. You'll get this bonus. You might be able to qualify for a trip and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, for 2 years, a little over 2 years, I hit my qualifications. And yes, I did get a little piddly bonus, but I never earned a trip. But the thing is I never built a team, right? I didn't build a team because I don't believe in manipulating people and hyping up a opportunity to give somebody hope, and trick them into thinking that they can do something when in reality I know that they can't, right? And I would tell that. I mean, I tried to dissuade so many people from joining my team because I knew they wouldn't do anything. And I didn't blame them for wanting to be a part of my team and be on my team, but I just knew that they weren't going to do the work that it required. And even if they did do the work, in the end, they're not going to make a ton of money because that's just not how these systems are set up. It's not how they work. So you have these situations where when you initially get in, you get excited, you get hyped up, and they love bomb you. And that's what happens with a narcissist who is a narcissistic abuser. That's exactly what happened to me. So as you get deeper into the system, remember, we're talking about a system here. When you get deeper into the system, what happens is you begin to become part of their culture. So they tell you things like, you should be on the team call every week. And if there's a daily call and you can be on that call, then be on that call too, because we're going to talk about, the different ways that we can convince people to buy our product, right? And so you become a part of the team call and you're on the call and everybody's like quoting a group mantra, which is what cults do. And you start quoting the mantra that you can do this, and it is possible. And not that dreaming, believing it, and achieving it is a bad thing, but the idea is that there's this idea that you keep reinforcing that belief so that you believe it enough to actually go out and do it. And you actually, in a sense, become almost hypnotized, in a sense, by the authoritarian type leadership. And what I mean by that is I don't mean authoritarian in the sense that they're dominating over you and they're trying to abuse you or anything. But what I do mean is that in these companies, what they often do is they prop up at convention. They will prop up, quote, the $1 million earners or the $2 million or $5 million earners or whatever. They prop up people who've always been in the business a very long time. Usually it's 5, 10, 20 years. And so these people, yes, you can become like that person, because they applied themselves and they were able to sell $5 million gazillion dollars worth of this product or service. And now they have 10 homes and a Jaguar and a Mercedes and, whatever other expensive car they have. And if you join their coaching program, then you get personal coaching with them. And that only costs you $5,000. And then you can also go to Tony Robbins convention with them and you can go and get hyped up and learn to walk on coals because mind over matter, it just is insane. And here's what happens. most people are people pleasers, right? So most people will go into this stuff, and if they're really gung-ho and they're an entrepreneurial in the spirit, they really need the money, they're going to invest what it costs to get a starter kit, and then they're going to buy extra product, and then they're going to go out all zealously, they're going to try to sell it to their friends and family, and you're told to make a list of 100 people, and you should contact all your friends from high school and elementary school and your doctor and your lawyer and everybody else under the sun that you know. Make a list, because there's always a gazillion people out there to prospect. And then when you're done, just go on LinkedIn. You can contact everybody you know on LinkedIn, contact all your Facebook friends. And this is where the term hun comes in, because the term hun comes in, as in honey, because you're taught to kind of reach out and say, hey, hun, how you doing? You've been on my mind. I just happened to be in this great business opportunity. I thought of you, and I thought maybe you could be a part of this, right? How many of you have heard that or done it yourself? Okay. I actually haven't done that myself, but I know what it's like to sell a product or a service where I am trying to persuade somebody to buy something that maybe they don't want. And actually, I'm a lousy salesperson in that regard, because I'm ethical and I don't believe personally in pushing a service on anybody that doesn't want it. Now, if I know people want it or they could benefit from it, then naturally I'm going to follow up with them. And there is truth. The fortune is in the follow up. You've heard this maybe for many years, that the fortune is in the follow up. And the reality is, in sales, when you're doing ethical sales, the fortune is in the follow up. But the problem is that a lot of these companies, they indoctrinate people into saying, if you do this, 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 and this, and you reach out to this, if you get 100 no's, then you're successful. Why? Because you reached out to 500 people, or at least 100 people, and they all said no. And then what happens to the person is, in some cases, they will make money, but in most cases, they don't make money. And then what happens is they feel bad about themselves, and they feel like they're a failure, right? And then this is where it gets even more diabolical, because just as it is in a narcissistically abusive relationship, where it begins with love bombing and you're all I ever needed and I love you, love you, love you. When it gets to the point where you are now under that person's thumb because they've groomed you, when you begin to speak out and express questions or concerns, then all of a sudden these people will begin to gaslight you and attack you and blame you for not doing enough work or anything like that. And so you have really a narcissistically abusive system within the multi-level marketing world. And one of the things, sadly, that I've discovered, unfortunately, from my own experiences in the past, is that if you're a person who believes in honest relationships, when somebody comes to you and they say, hey, you know what? I really love you. You're part of the team. We're sisters, all that. But let's say I'm having a bad day. Can I call one of these top level leaders? Do I have their personal cell phone number? Can I pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, can you pray with me today? I'm having a hard time. The answer is no. The answer is no. Because these people are only there as part of the community because you're there to make them money, right? And when you begin to point out things or feel like in your gut there's something wrong, often what happens is they will go back through the circle and go back and create another love bombing situation. I actually know somebody And I've heard so many stories, but I actually know somebody, and this happens all the time. When you see people who are families and they're in multi-level marketing, often what happens is the parents will take their children and they'll sign their children up underneath them. And then what they do is they sign up clients that the parents get, they'll sign it up under the child who's not doing any work. But then they, quote, make the child look successful because they've taken people and they put it under the child, right? And then the child gets all puffed up like, hey, look at me, I'm so great, you know. And then when you call that out, they look at you and they attack you. They're like, you're just creating division. You have mental problems. You need to go back to therapy. You need therapy because you're the problem. I actually had that happen to me, by the way. You know, the nerve of somebody actually telling me, a therapist who has been in therapy for a number of years and who has actually dealt with my problems and issues, for somebody so dysfunctional and messed up in their head to point it back to me and say, it's your problem. I knew enough. I saw the red flags. And I want you to become aware that that is what these people do, instead of them owning it and just being flat out honest, especially when they're claiming to be Christians, right? Under the guise of Christianity, these people will prey on people, Prey, in the church. They will prey on you online, in Christian groups. They will say, oh, this company was founded on Christian principles, but then they're not practicing anything biblical or even remotely Christ-like, because all they care about in the end is meeting their quota and making money. And if you really think that they're actually putting their money towards God's kingdom, you're so deceived, because they don't care about God's kingdom. They care about Satan's kingdom, which is to make money and to step on anybody that's going to get in their way if they're threatened by you. So they'll go back to the love bombing. And then they'll begin to convince you, oh, you know, we have a special thing going on right now, and you could do this, and this is how we're going to do it, right? So so, you know, and in some cases they'll say, well, let's do a party, and if you do a party, we'll open up a Facebook group, we'll go ahead and we'll do a party for you, and if you sell $5 million, let's say like $500 worth of product, then we'll give you a free whatever it is. And Norwex does that. Norwex does that. I know other people do it. There's so many. There's so many. And so it's like, you're like, oh, do I really want to take the time to make another Facebook group and to invite people in it, only to have nobody see it because Facebook blocks everything? No. But then here's the really sad part. And it's all very sad, because when you go through this cycle, they love bomb you. And then when you're feeling like you can't reach it, then they begin to devalue you after you get into the cultic thing where you're told, be on this call and learn how to do the sales pitch, and then do a 3-way call, and we'll reinforce this for you. We'll walk with you in order to help you sell the product just by doing a 3-way call. And then when you do the 3-way call, and then we'll convince this person, and then you'll get a $500 bonus. And then we have to convince the newbie person that they can sell to their mom and dad and their grandmother. And then when they sell to 3 people, then they'll get a $200 bonus. And then they'll do this, and then blah, blah. And that's kind of where they initially get you in direct sales, is they love bomb you into trying to convince 2 or 3 people so they get the big check. And then when you really begin to get into the system, and you get into the system where there's a daily call or a weekly call or a Zoom call or whatever, a training call, where frankly you never learn anything new, because it's always the same stuff that is pushing on you over and over again. And it's always books, you know, self-development books. You know, you have books by Tony Robbins and Eric Worre and you know, just new age crap. and the law of attraction baloney, and if you just visualize this and make a dream board, and you do all this stuff and you just wish it to come to you, then and only then you will have it, right? But if you don't do any of that, then you are applying yourself and you're a loser. And that's abusive, and it's coercive, and it's very, very cultic, and it's very, very dangerous. Every year, all multi-level marketing companies have a couple of big conventions. Sometimes they call them a leadership convention. Sometimes they call it their annual convention. Whatever. They always have these conventions. And what they do at these conventions is they take the top sellers, which are kind of like big celebrities within their MLM, and they'll have the top sellers come in. Maybe they'll also have some big personal development person or an author like Mel Robbins or Brene Brown or somebody like that, and they'll have them come in and they'll give a speech. And they'll give a speech, rah, rah, rah. And you'll get all excited, and here is the dream, and if you could do this next year, you could be on this stage, and blah, 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 right? They do this, and they actually, from the corporate headquarters, they design these events to almost make you feel like guilty if you don't go, especially as a new person. They'll say things like, well, so-and-so has become a Millionaire Club member, and the reason they did is because they never missed a convention. The first year they were in, they sold their car, and then they took a bus to their venue, and they camped outside the venue, and they couldn't even rent a hotel room because they were so broke. They slept in a car. And they clawed their way, and they did whatever it took in order to get there, so that they could hear these speakers and be inspired, so that they can become like them. And you might think I'm making this up. I am not making this up. And if you actually talk to people who are honest, that's the key. If you talk to honest people, they will tell you that these are the stories that they sell to you, so that you feel guilty and manipulated and coerced into spending thousands of dollars into going to these conventions, right? Because what they don't tell you is that these conventions make them a lot of money, right? They try to convince you, build your team, bring your whole team to the convention, because then when your whole team is there, you're going to get all riled up. Yeah, you are. All your team is. You're going to be so on fire that after this convention, you're going to come back and you're going to sell 5 million products to whoever it is. And then when you don't, you feel bad. And that's not healthy. That's not healthy. And so you have narcissistic leaders often who are leading and manipulating people and recruiting people into the opportunity. And they prey, P-R-E-Y, they prey on vulnerable people. They prey on people who don't have a lot of money. They prey on people who are hurting and who have been taken advantage of. That's actually what happened to me. I had actually just gotten ripped off from a home contractor when I was preyed on. And the person knew it. And they took advantage of me. And they took advantage of me wanting to build my ministry. And I felt it at the time, but I didn't listen to my gut. And that's the other thing. You need to listen to your gut. If your gut is going off and your gut is saying there's something wrong here, this red flag is like waving, it's going, hey, don't ignore it. As much as you want to have the benefit of the doubt, listen to the gut, listen to your gut. That's where I went wrong. Because I by nature try to think the best of people, and they will often use sob stories, or they'll claim they have this inspirational story that happened to them, and you'll look at them and you'll go, oh, gosh, it would be an honor to be on your team to help you. And now that I know you went through that and this company helped you through it, gosh, man, maybe it can help me through mine. So they find people who are highly intelligent. They find people in the helping professions, often teachers, therapists, social workers, nursing, doctors sometimes. I've heard stories of doctors quitting their practices in order to pursue a multi-level marketing opportunity. They prey on people who care, who are actually truly caring and empathic, when these leaders are narcissistic abusers and they could care less about you. They're just seeing you as a dollar sign. But they pretend that they care. But in the end, they care about the money. They don't care about you. So you go through this circle, this cycle where you get love bombed. And then when you can't do what you're supposed to do, then you begin to feel like crap. And they begin to gaslight you and tell you that you're the problem. And often in many cases, you need to go back to therapy. All the while, they know exactly what they're doing. You're in this system, you're being put in this system where you're being trained. You need to do this every day. You need to do this every day. You know, successful people show up. You need to do this every day. And if you don't go to convention, well, then you really don't care about, how much you're building your business. Oh, and by the way, there's also residual income. If you keep doing this, you're going to get residual income, and you're going to be able to live off the residual income in your retirement. And then they prop people up who've been in the business for 20 years, who've got 5 million people under them, who they can actually live off their residual income now because they've done this for 20 something years and convinced all these people under them to do what they want to do. But if you question it, these sisters, these brothers who tell you that you're part of a family, they will shun you or they'll blame you. Now, in real cults, when you begin to leave a cult, often they will shun you and they'll tell you, no, that person's a liar. They did this, they did that, they did this. In MLMs, often what keeps people quiet is that when you sign an MLM disclosure thingy, you're basically told, if you say anything bad about our company, we're going to come after you. So you don't hear a lot of stories unless people completely sell out of the company. I was actually threatened in a company that I was in because I dared to say something to, quote, Power. I actually spoke to Power, one of the top narcissists in the company, started talking about racism and condemning white people. And I actually spoke out against it. And oh my gosh. Yeah. I'll save that story for later. However, I will say, when you begin to see what's going on and you begin as an ethical, honest Christian to question things and to call it out, then what happens is the devil that you've been involved with all of a sudden comes out and their full mask comes off. And then you get to see the mean girl that was there all the while pulling strings and manipulating. And I've been listening to a number of anti-MLM podcasts. And I'm going to, next week, I'm interviewing a woman who I want you to hear her story because there are so many stories like this. And I'm just giving you the overview of really what's going on. And I'm hoping, and I have prayed, that this show is going to give you a different perspective on multi-level marketing and narcissism, because they are so intrinsically designed. One of the things I've learned is that often women who get involved in these things have had very abusive mothers. And often what happens in these companies is that when you get an authoritarian narcissist in one of these positions and you end up in the downline, they begin to gaslight you and abuse you and manipulate you behind the scenes. If you go to YouTube and you search for anti-MLM shows, you will find there are YouTubers who have clips of people who have done this in the behind the scenes training Zooms that they have taken and put online so that you can see the monster behind the mask. Because sadly, it's there. And a lot of God's sheep are being fleeced. And I feel a need to warn you if you're involved in one of these things. And if you recognize this cycle that I've been telling you about, then feel free to message me privately if you don't feel comfortable leaving me a comment. Feel free to privately message me and tell me your story, because I know some of you, and I know some of you are in systems like this, because I know some of you, because some of you are involved or were involved in the same situation I was in. But it's far worse than most people think. And it all comes down to cultic behavior. Just like I talked about at the beginning of the show, talking about Nexium and how, these people, they were presented with a business opportunity, a way to become a better executive coach to build their business. And they ended up in this sex cult ultimately in the end. People don't join cults. They join a good cause. They're sold a lie packaged very pretty, kind of like Eve, the devil did to Eve, the serpent did to Eve. They're sold a lie. And the response that I see from the anti-MLM community, to those who are still currently in the system, I personally find very heartbreaking. I joined numerous Facebook groups in order to hang out and see what a lot of the anti-MLMers are saying in these Facebook groups. And most of what I've seen, unfortunately, is mockery of those who are still involved. Mocking, jesting, laughing at these people, saying how stupid they are and how could they, and all that. And, I realize that a lot of the women in these groups are younger. They're in their 30s, some in their 20s. Maybe some of them are a little bit older. I'm in my 50s. And I see it a little bit different. I see it as a lack of compassion for people who are still trapped in a system where they're being abused. And these people, they're striving and they're wanting and they're hoping for some income to support their families. And they're just doing what they're told. They're doing what they're told. A lot of people do what they're told because we're told from a very young age, do what you're told. If I'm your mom and I'm telling you to do this, do what you're told. And if you do what you're told, then you will get rewarded. And that's what a lot of people who are still in these MLMs are. They're in that situation. So from where I'm coming from, I'm like your mom, and I'm like, honey, they're lying to you. And if you keep doing this, you're going to go broke. You're not going to get what they're telling you. Even if you work your rear end off for the next 10 years, you're never going to be at the top of that pyramid. You're never going to make that money. So we need to have compassion. We need to have a little bit of real empathy. We really need to have a little bit of my cat here. He's always with me. I know, huh? We need to have some compassion and care for those who are still involved, because they don't know. They're not, they're still trying to hold on to the dream, and maybe behind the scenes they've spent hundreds of dollars for product that they've bought and they can't sell it and they feel depressed. And so they go to one of the rah sessions that they're told to go to and they get hyped up again and their hope gets lifted, but it's all a lie. We need to have compassion on these women and men, and say, what's really going on? Can you help? Can you tell me what's really going on? I see you're troubled. Maybe I can help you a little bit. Maybe I can help you out of this. Tell me what's really going on. I once had somebody come to me and they told me that they couldn't make their car payment. And they initially told me that they had written a check and that somehow it got lost and all this other stuff. And anyway, long story short, it turned out that they lied to me because they were embarrassed that they had spent money and they didn't make enough money to pay their car payment. Why? Because maybe they were trying to build their business and they were trying to sell something when they couldn't sell it because they're not that type of person. Not everybody's born to be a salesperson. And yet these multi-level marketing companies, Arbonne, etc., they will try to convince people that if you do this, 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 and this, then you will change. You'll grow as a person. You'll do this. And then you'll become rich and you'll be able to make enough money. And it's not true. And so we have to help people understand the system that they're in and show them how it's cult-like. And it is a cult in many ways. You know, they love bomb you, they teach you, they train you, then they devalue you if you're not living up, they blame you, they gaslight you, then they praise you, and they basically go through this narcissistic cycle of abuse, or, if you will, a domestic violence cycle of abuse, which is emotional. And I hear one or two of you saying, well, wait a minute, that wasn't my experience. My experience was wonderful. I never had a bad experience whatsoever in an MLM. And to you, I would say, okay, you're probably one of the top sellers, and you don't know the experience of the people under you, because maybe in the beginning you started out, okay, maybe you never hurt anybody. Maybe you never manipulated anybody. Maybe your MLM has always been the perfect thing, but that's rare. That's very rare. There's a reason why MLMs are so controversial, because they lie to people and they prey on people's dreams, and they find abusive, manipulative, conniving people who will step on other people to get to the place where they are. And I'm not saying all people, but I am going to say the majority of the people who you see, who they convince you are who you should be like, are like that. You know, they also use tactics like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and other tactics that are very cultic and not biblical by any stretch. And it's really not about serving other people. It's ultimately, and it's not about serving God. It's always about serving the almighty dollar and seeing how much money you can make. And that's the truth. That is the truth. And that's where I'm going to leave the show today. So I know, everybody, this has been one long hour of me talking. It's been over an hour. But I wanted to share that with you because next week, like I said, I'm going to have a guest. Hopefully they'll be coming on, and we're going to talk a little bit about her experience in multi-level marketing. And we're going to try to share with you some of the things that you can look out for. And I will end this by saying this, not all multi-level marketing products are bad. That's not my issue. My issue isn't with the product or the service. I'm involved in a multi-level marketing company. The product is great. The service is great. There are many great products. It's the model and how they're sold. That's the problem. And it's cultic in nature, the way that these organizations are set up. God didn't call us to be involved in a cultic system. He called us to be part of the body of Christ. He called us to love one another. He called us to love Him first. And many people who purport to be of Him never talk about Him unless there's money attached to it. That is not good. And that's not the way it should be. You know, I look at scripture and I look at how Jesus's ministry was funded, and it was funded by primarily women. Many of the women were entrepreneurs, actually, but they funded Christ's ministry because they loved Jesus, right? We here at Heart Tug International, I refuse to go down the route that I see some of my friends go down when they say, sow a seed into my ministry and you'll get a 500 million fold back if you do that. No, I don't do that. I don't like to do that. I am not money motivated. We need money to do what we do. And honestly, I need a lot more money because I would like to expand what we do, because we're being silenced on different platforms. But I'm not going to use a manipulative, coercive, lying tactic to twist you to give. You know, if you're being blessed by our ministry, I believe that you'll give to our ministry as God lays it on your heart. And like I said at the beginning of the show, if you go to my website, hearttug.org, BibleNewsRadio.com, you can go there and there's a donate button. I would ask you prayerfully consider becoming a monthly partner with me so that we can put our show on Rumble and pay the fees that it costs to put that up there, and maybe get our show on some other places and put some ads up so that more people can see this content that very, very, very few honest Christian media outlets will talk about. In fact, I guarantee you're not going to find this topic on any honest Christian media outlet. Moody Radio isn't going to talk about this. Salem Radio isn't going to talk about it. All the Christian radio outlets out there, they're not going to talk about it. But I will talk about it because I don't have money on the line. I don't have to appease some sponsor or answer to anybody when it comes to that. I answer to the Lord, right? And God is my provider anyway. But all that to say, and I'm not going to use manipulative tactics and use language that's going to make you click so that you can learn about the latest prophecy that the world's going to end in 5 days. You know, I'm not going to do it because I don't like to be lied to. I don't like to be manipulated. And I have been lied to and I have been manipulated. And I refuse to go down that route and manipulate my brothers and sisters. It's not going to happen. So if you want to support me and that, just, support an honest Christian who's doing God's work the way that I really feel He's called me to go, then I would encourage you to donate. And if you don't feel led, then go where He wants you to donate. But just know that we need your help if you are being blessed by what we're doing. All right. My cat's now quiet. So I will end by saying again, please leave a comment. Feel free to email me privately if you've had an experience or disagree with me. Tell me what your thoughts are. I don't care. I'm open to all points of view. But I really felt I had to speak out on this topic and just let you know that if you have been in one of these situations and you have felt hurt and you've been abused by somebody who's been your upline, you're not alone. There is so much of it out there. And there's Christians doing it to Christians. And this is where I have to say enough is enough. And I will speak out even if nobody else will. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys have a great week. And we'll be back again soon with another episode. Stay tuned during the week. I'm going to probably do a couple of short little videos during the week. So make sure you stay subscribed to my channel here, and make sure you get on my email list. All right. Have a great day. Bye.